Hey fam, it's your girl Jasmine. Look, today I sat in court for Don Lemon's arraignment here in Los Angeles, and I will be honest, it stirred up a lot of old feelings I did not ask for. After years with the institutional armor of CNN, Don Lemon is now an independent journalist. As you know, he was arrested here in Los Angeles in connection with an anti-ICE protest at a church, a protest where Lemon was live streaming, clearly identifying himself as a journalist, interviewing the pastor, the protesters, and documenting what was happening in real time. Yet here we are. Journalists, press advocates, and Democratic lawmakers are rightly calling this what it looks like, intimidation. A warning shot aimed at journalists who don't wait for permission to hold power accountable. The charges come from a federal grand jury indictment tied to the alleged interruption of a religious service at a church where a U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement official serves as a pastor. Watching this unfold brought me right back to 2014, not because this is about me, but because history has a way of repeating itself when lessons go ignored. That summer in 2014, after the killings of Michael Brown in Missouri and Ezell Ford here in Los Angeles, the city erupted. The protests were massive, justified, and unavoidable. I was covering those protests as a journalist at the time for KJLH and also for the Sentinel, both Black-owned outlets. On the third night of the citywide demonstrations, after having spent that very morning on air interviewing then Council President Herb Wesson, who was the acting mayor at the time while Eric Garcetti was out of state, I myself was arrested downtown. Not because I wasn't pressed, not because I wasn't credentialed, but because I was Black at a Black Lives Matter protest. Yes, let that sink in, because that's how the police looked at me. White mainstream reporters were allowed to leave. I was not. The case was eventually dropped because the police had zero proof that I was a protest leader or inciting anyone, which is what they claimed. But the message had already been sent. And really, that's the point. And let's be clear about what's really happening. When they can't manipulate the algorithm to bury our reporting, can't shadow ban it, throttle it, or pretend it doesn't exist, the next move is obvious. Make it harder for us to report at all. Arrest the journalists. Drag them through court. Drain their time, money, and energy. Turn the act of documenting reality into a legal risk. If silencing us digitally doesn't work, they'll try to silence us physically. Independent journalists are more essential than ever at a time when too many mainstream media entities are bending the knee to Donald Trump, laundering government narratives, and uncritically amplifying stories that later fall apart under the light. When access journalism replaces accountability journalism, the public loses, and the people doing the real work are pushed further into the margins. This isn't paranoia, it's pattern recognition. They don't need everyone to stop reporting. They just need enough of us to decide it's not worth the trouble. So no, this isn't about me. It's about what happens when journalism loses its shield. It's about who gets presumed legitimate and who gets presumed guilty. And it's about how easily accountability reporting becomes criminal behavior when the reporting gets too close to the truth.